Thank you for coming today. It's lovely to see everybody in such beautiful colors. This is for the people who are listening in from Zoom today. It's weird to hear my echo, but that's all right. We're going to watch a video of some of the beautiful moments of Cathy's life that Gemma has collated. And I know a lot of you have contributed to those photos, so thank you for sharing those. It's also been really lovely to see everybody sharing their Cathy memories today. I think she very much would have approved of today. The queen of hosting, to see everybody that she loves laughing and having fun and eating good food and having some lovely gin. May I have a quick toast to Cathy? So Cathy? We're going to hear from some people after we watch this video. So if you recognize any of the moments, sorry, try not to echo too much. If you recognize any of the moments or want to share some of the stories, particularly the 70s ones, I really would like to hear some more of those. Like the time she went to and worked in a topless bar. She can't scrub her history. No. I particularly like the one in her 20s when she went over to the UK and caught a, what do you call it? A boat over to London because you couldn't really fly. It was too expensive then. And she worked in a topless bar, but assured me she was behind the bar, not the topless ladies. So if you got some more stories like that, we would love to hear those today. But let's see some beautiful photos put together by Gemma. I'm just going to put the microphone here.
Feels like I'm standing on the timeless dream of light mists, of pale ambrose. Feels like I'm lost in the deep cloud of heavenly scent. Touching, discovering you. Those days of warm rains come rushing back to me. Miles of windless summer nights, secret moments shared in the heat of the afternoon. Out of the stillness, soft-spoken words. Say it again. I love you, always, forever, near and far, closer together, everywhere. I will be with you, everything. I will do for you. I love you, always, forever, near and far, closer together, everywhere. I will be with you, everything. I will do for you. You've got the most unbelievable blue eyes I've ever seen. You've got me almost melting away as we lay there under a blue sky with pure white stars. Exotic sweetness, a magical time. Say it again. I love you, always, forever, near and far, closer together, everywhere. I will be with you, everything. I will do for you. I love you, always, forever, near and far, closer together, everywhere. I will be with you, everything. I will do for you. Say you love me forever, never stop, never, whatever, near and far, and always, and everywhere and every. Say you love me forever, never stop, never,
many beautiful memories there. Who is going to go first today? Is it Uncle John? Gemma, you're going first? Who would you like?
Should I wait until my crying stops? But no, probably won't. So if I do completely lose it, it feels good. But I'm really hoping I can say all the things that I yeah, I should look at him and be like, there's nothing somber about today. Okay, so thank you so much everybody for coming to celebrate our beloved Cathy. She would have absolutely loved this party. It would have been so up her alley in Mary's backyard. Yeah. She would have loved color, the food, and every single special person in her life is here. So mum loved a good party. She loved to host. She loved to show everybody that she loved us through hosting. She loved to overcater. I know. She loved to make sure that we felt special, and she loved us through her hosting. She could tell a great story at a party as well. She knew how to have us hanging on every word of a story. She'd have a funny situation happen to her, and she'd figure out a great way to tell that story, and then she'd tell everybody that story. And she would know exactly when to drop the great punchline, and she'd know it was coming, and she'd know she'd be about to get her laughs. She was awesome at parties. She loved to cook, and we all know she cooked a mean cake. One comment Leah made years ago totally touched Mum, and she used to tell me this comment quite frequently. She'd remind me of it because it just made her feel so special. She said that Leah said just after one family dinner, "Thank you for loving. Thank you for loving us through your cooking." And it was just a little end of the night flyaway comment, but she loved it so much. And she always thought about that when she catered for people. She always thought, this is me showing you how much I love you.
She learned how to keto cook and she
did. She loved her love of animals. Was one of her most admirable qualities. All the dog park ladies and males. She loved all animals, and she loved her animals so much. And I'm so grateful and so lucky that she brought me up in a house filled with animals and taught me how to love animals so much. And I didn't grow up in a traditional family setting. It was just Mum and I. But it never bothered me. It never bothered me that it was just her and I. I never needed to look for my father because we were having so much fun. I never needed anything more than she could give me. It's the most magical mother-daughter relationship anyone could ever hope for. She was always so creative with my days off, giving me the most amazing childhood. Sorry, I feel like this speech didn't take as long and it was just me and before it happened. And I'm like it is 3 minutes 20. Longer because I'm crying a lot, sorry. Even though it was just the two of us, she made sure I was surrounded with family on the Gold Coast. My amazing cousins always referred to Mum's house as being the fun, crazy house. Where we could run around the yard, paint on windows, eat Cocoa Pops all through the day, any time of the day. And we could burn bark in the backyard. Do you remember that at Pimpama? Yeah. Yeah. It was a safe outlet of fire. Her much cherished career as a preschool teacher made her the most amazing mum. She was such a gifted teacher and she touched so many children's lives. She was immensely proud of what she did, and I am too. It's been a really tough year, but all of you have surrounded us with love and kindness and made us feel so looked after. Really appreciate everything that everyone here has done. Thank you to everybody who's on Zoom, who couldn't be here but really wanted to see Mum and talk to Mum. Have my drink. I just want to cheers. To Cathy. We miss you every day, but we loved every day we had. Cheers.
Well, hello. I'm Cathy's brother, John. 3 years younger. I haven't got my glasses. That's good because I haven't memorized this book. She wasn't all that nice all the time, I think. But thanks, Gemma, your dedication to Cathy and sacrificing your job in London and putting on hold your goal of opening a bridal shop to support Cathy for 6, 7, 8 months was really inspiring to us all. And she was so proud of you. And the last smile was because you'd sold the dress. Anyway, we're here to celebrate Cathy's life. Others can talk about her career in teaching and administrating childcare centres, her love of her family and animals, her wonderful cooking skills, and her kindness. So let me just concentrate on a very thin slice of my unique memory of Cathy's childhood. Cathy's mum, Edna, was a single child who grew up on a small farm in Warwick district, and she often rode a horse to school. That's how long ago it was. Edna was a single child, and after Teachers College in Rockhampton, she met Dad, who was an army officer returning from the occupation forces in Japan after World War II. They met on a blind date and they married very soon after. Cathy was born at Paddington Women's Hospital in Sydney in 1952. I was born a couple of years later, and my brother Chris a couple of years later as well. Our parents, I think it might have been something to do with the post-war sort of, freedom, but they were much more liberal than we all were with our kids. They'd let us go for 8 hours a day and no one worried about anything, it was just great. We lived through a lot of different army postings and moved quite often, and Mum worked full time as a preschool teacher, but we didn't miss anything. Mum was, I think, because she had kind of a quiet life as a girl growing up as a single child on a small farm. She was determined to enjoy all that the army and the postings had to offer. Our favourite posting was at Chowder Bay in Sydney, where we were given an amazing amount of freedom to roam the shores of Sydney Harbour. Cathy was our fearless and reckless 9-year-old leader as we explored the beaches, bush and sandstone cliffs, unsupervised all day. We broke into old gun tunnel emplacements from the First and Second World War. This is on sandstone cliffs of Mossman. We broke into these places through funnel web spiders, and Cathy made me go first. We swung on massive ropes that the soldiers used for training, explored the tidal caves and swam amongst the boats in Chowder Bay, sorry. Cathy was always pushing the boundaries and getting us in trouble. One time she dared me to climb a huge rock, and Dad had to be called out of his army office to rescue me. I got a lot of shit on Cathy if you want. One time she tried to pick up a dead snake only to find it wasn't dead, just had a big scar down the side. We both ran about 100 meters home, totally out of breath. That's when I discovered I got faster than she was. But anyway. She once locked our babysitter in the bathroom and refused to let her out for hours. In fact, I think the parents came home before she got out. And I'll confess that another time she dressed me in her ballet tutu, but don't worry, because the therapy is still working. She was my mentor and my tormentor until Chris grew a little bit bigger and we agreed to pick on him instead. But our backyard was this convict-built office. It had been an office, it's now a museum. Our backyard had 180-degree views of the harbour. We could follow all the big ships coming into the harbour, including the Britannica and the big military ships and everything, for miles, and also watch the massive flying boats, Catalinas, I think they were, take off from Rushcutters Bay, and they just made this enormous sound. They don't do that anymore. The harbour's too precious. And we had the best view from the start line of the Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. Our mum also made sure we had pets. We had guinea pigs, turtles, and even a fairy penguin as pets, as well as a feral cat that Dad had to feed with leather gloves. But the ultimate glory for us and the pinnacle of being an army brat was when Dad was away, which he was quite frequently, and the soldiers would drop us off to Mossman School as 9-year-olds and 6-year-olds in an army jeep or a 4-ton truck. Told him I'd bring the tank tomorrow, you know. So Cathy was feisty, she was ferociously independent, impetuous, quite wicked at times, but she was also loyal, very funny, and pretty enough to charm her way out of trouble every time. Unfortunately, I was not. So over the next 60 years, we shared lots of good times and bad times, but I can always see that little girl. She was a great sister. There you go. That's what I got. You're better in your defence. This is the guy we picked on, so it wasn't as if, it wasn't a fair contest.
No, I've got a history of not responding to John. It's best to just ignore him. We're all here because we all loved Cathy, and she returned that love in full. And she always said that Gemma was the best thing that she ever did, and she loved her so much, as we know. In the hospice last Friday, the day after Gemma opened her bridal boutique in Melbourne, Cathy was so filled with joy when we read her the glowing, unsolicited review of a bride who'd called into the boutique that day. Cathy took a deep breath, put a hand on her heart, and said, "It's everything she ever wanted for Gemma." She, it was almost like, I can go now. Cathy also loved her nieces and nephew. Him and the wider family of the next generation of cousins and beyond. My daughters, Lily and Maeve, have very fond memories of staying with Cathy, with or without Siobhan or me. Maeve just reminded me today of when they'd come and stayed with Cathy, and Cathy had set up a tent in the backyard, and it even came with an M&M dispenser. She always went that extra mile with hospitality and fun. When Cathy first got sick, her other concern was for her beloved animals, of which there have been many over the years. Many of you know the joy she had at the dog park with many friends, 4, 2, and even 3-legged, remembering Mr. Darcy. She called me to take Big Sydney and shed a tear in the hospice when I said that, reassured her that, yes, we're still taking him, of course, and he'll be a much loved member of the family in Canberra. And we're very much looking forward to him meeting our puppy Kip. He'll be an ongoing reminder of the love that she shared with all of us, male, female, human, animal, even cats, which something I can never quite get around. Anyway, we love you, Cathy, and love you, Gemma. And yeah.
We'd like to invite anyone who would like to share a memory or say something, because we know Cathy had a very, Mum's going to say something as well, a very multifaceted life. So after Mum said something, if you're from the dog friends, the book club, the cocktail club, I'm not sure if those two went together. They seem like they would go together. A joint one. That's a better book club than I even imagined. That sounds good. All right, so over to Mum, and then if you'd like to think of something, we'd love to hear some more stories today. There you are, Mama.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's lovely that everybody's here. It's some wonderful faces from the past and the present, and it's just so lovely, really lovely. And it's an expression of how marvelous Cathy was, that she linked a whole the sections of people. Gemma had to organise, right? You do the school people, you do the dog park, you do the book club, you do and so Gemma organised it really well. Well done, Gem. And I had fun ringing people and letting them know. For me, it's Cathy's. It's that lifetime of being together, because I did remember her from high school. I went to the same high school, but she was one of those big kids 2 years above us that we little ones didn't. They were like the gods. We let them go through. And particularly in Year 12, Cathy was absolutely stunning, and she was smart. She was in the top English class, the top everything except for maths, everything else class, and she was quite like, we look at it, well, I look like that when I get to Year 12, sort of an image. She was just so beautiful. And the first memory I have of really remembering her was at the Year 12 farewell, where she came on in this slim, sexy, gorgeous petticoat that was just like, what? This is the 70s. Like, what? What are you wearing? And she did Hey Big Spender and just walked around the stage. And there was one of my girlfriends, her brother, who was a bit of a dork. He was running from her on the stage like, no. And she just chased him stealthily and sleekly. And I remember sitting there, and I had the PE teacher and I think one of the other teachers behind males, and they were just like, whoa, to see this gorgeous woman. And that was my first impression of Cathy. And then, of course, when John and I started going out together, I got to actually meet her at home and meet her as a person, and got to be involved with, because she was teaching and I was teaching, and we got to know each other really well. But the biggest impression she's had on me is the journey with my children and Gemma, and the life that we've had together, the camping adventures. And my friend Debbie, who gave her a tent one day on her first camping trip. She was a 5-star only camping. It's not 5 stars, Karen, I'm not coming. And I said, look, please come. You will love it, Cathy, you will love it. And she sort of went, oh, all right, I haven't got any gear. Oh, that's okay, Debbie's got the gear, she'll give you the gear. So we gave her this lovely little tent. And she got all cuddled in and everything. And she came up and we said, how's it going? It's got a bit of a funny smell to it, she said. We went, oh, well, it's been packed away in Debbie's garage for ages. You know, that's probably what it is. A bit of airing, it'll be fine. And soon she had candles, smelly candles in there. We're going, wonder what that smells. And then on the last day, she pulled everything out and found a dead lizard, skull and all, the whole thing. And like, it was, and we thought, oh no, Debbie and I looked at each other, she'll never come camping again. But she was besotted, wasn't she, Deb? She just, I love this. I love this. And within a year, because we used to go every year to Lennox Head, she had all the gear. And Debbie and her are very the same. They have all the gear, both of them. I have nothing, I just borrow. And Cathy just got so into it. And her and Debbie would spend, I'd be laying back on my back, having a lovely time soaking up the sun or swimming. And Cathy would be down there pulling the tarp over. I think I can add tweaking, that's right. I can add another tarp, I think, over here. We'll do that. And then she'd come and tweak. And Debbie would be doing the same. And I'd look at them and go, what's doing? Like, we're supposed to be relaxing. But it was a really important time because we got to download all the good things that happened in the year at school, all the annoying principals and the kids and the parents, all those people that gave us a hard time. So it was a really valuable time for us. But the main thing is that with our camping, we had adventures with the kids at Mount Barney, which was amazing. And I remember we had Ben at about a 3-year-old when we went to Mount Barney one time, and we decided to go for a drive one day. We found this really old graveyard, and it had, you know, the really old graveyards that have the beautiful wrought iron, yes, around, and the cement in the middle was all broken, big hunks of cement, all broken. So Ben's leaning there and he went head first into the cement, and Cathy's going, what about? And he landed right here on a piece of concrete between his eyes. And Cathy and I are freaking, absolutely freaking. We're in this tiny town. I think I wrote the name of it down here. But it had nothing open except for a little tiny store that sold everything, you know. There was no doctors, no nothing like that. Wollongong, I think it was, Ben, in case you ever want to go back to Wollongong. And so the only thing they could give us to stop this bleeding, and I should have had my sister-in-law Penny there because she was a nurse, but she wasn't there. So we put this frozen pack of peas on his head. Can you imagine putting that on a 3-year-old, trying to keep it there? And we managed to drive around, and finally we got bandages and stuff and we sorted him out. But Cathy and I looked at each other like, we could have killed him. We were so worried. I mean, how was I going to tell John I could have killed him? But he's okay. So that was fun. That was one of the many adventures. Also, Cathy making us walk to the top of Mount Barney with Ben. And Ben was complaining the whole while. He got bitten by this huge ant. And Cathy's going, shut up, Ben. It's all right. You'll be all right. She was really tough on Ben. Poor Ben, just like, come on, get over it, Ben. We're getting to the top. And we've got one photo from that. And there's Ben sitting there like this in the photo. And all the rest of us are smiling. And I thought, oh, poor Ben. She was his preschool teacher, Auntie Miss Cathy. She was his preschool teacher. And she used to say to me, I wish you'd never told me to take him. He's hard work. He's hard work. He's so rough. I'm going, my darling Ben, rough? Yeah. He did come good. Ben has, in the last week or so, just so blessed Cathy, him and his gorgeous girl, Tess, but getting everything on TV that Cathy could ever want set up in the nursing home, which is sort of dated back to the early 2000s, I think. And he managed to get everything on that she wanted, thanks to Jennifer as well. Helen, I mean, sorry, Helen. And a wonderful lady from the dog park who had the best app ever for getting things on. And just Ben and Tess spent hours. And she actually said to me, she said, I'm so proud of Ben and he's so lovely. And I said, I know. And he also rang her from Sri Lanka and wrote her a beautiful email from Sri Lanka, which again, she's like, oh my gosh, he's amazing. I go, I know. So yeah, that was really lovely. So the last thing I want to sort of talk about is events. And she's just like her mum, Edna, as you can tell with the cakes she's made and things. Every event was a special thing and she put a lot of energy into it. And again, it just doesn't fit with me. I'd say, look, just do, future parters and a bit, and that's it. We don't need, but no, Cathy would have the table burgeoning with food and she'd do a theme. So she'd do Japanese or, she'd pick, and she'd have all these meals. They'd all be vegan, like I don't know how she did it. And then we'd have dessert as well. So we'd sort of go there and go, oh no, wow, we've got to eat all this, and we try and take a bit and we say, Cathy, keep it simple, keep it simple. Never did. And it was that want just to give you the best time ever. And very like her mum. Her mum was the same. And of course, as you've heard, the cakes. Can I tell the Adeline story? Adeline, it hasn't been told, has it? Oh, this is my daughter Jess, and her gorgeous little girl. Adeline is the happiest child ever invented on the planet. And she came over one day, and Cathy bought a cake. We're having a meal, and Cathy bought a cake, and she said, "Oh my gosh!" And Cathy said, "Oh, it's Noah's birthday and Adeline's." She said, "It's a no event cake." A no event cake. Who knew? Oh, no reason cake. No reason cake. Who knew? And that's so typical Adeline, but so typical Cathy too. Cathy was, just cacking. We used to say, "No, don't bring a cake, Cathy. Don't bring a cake," and she'd always bring a cake. But her and I went on road trips together. We'd sing ABBA. We'd go down to Canberra together. The kids would sleep over at Gem, and Ben would always ask to go, and she'd say, "I'm not taking Ben. He's only 2." So I go, "Thank you." But she'd take the girls, and they would have the best growing up life. Do you remember sleeping on the trampolines one Christmas? Do you want to go? No, we'll move on. So it was like being in a community to bring people up, and going to her place to watch the English Bake Off with Mary and Jenny, watching her and I watching TV together, road trips, going whale watching, singing ABBA songs, and the babysitting. And I just want to end up. Does anyone know what the end of this phrase is? Came to me today, and I thought, that's so Cathy. If I knew you were coming, I'd have baked your cake. Unstoppable. Yeah. So I just am so lucky because I never had a sister, and I now have beautiful sisters-in-law. And Cathy was amazing, and she forgave me for everything all the time. And as John said, there were tough times too. We had some good Barneys, but sisters always fight and always make up, and that's what it's about. So thank you. And thank you, Cathy.
And just on the cakes front, my daughters were probably the biggest recipient of those cakes. And nearing a birthday, she'd be like, "Okay, what do you want for a cake?" And the girls would say something outlandish like a Roblox dragon cake. And she'd be like, "You sure you don't want a swan? I can do a swan." But she made possums. She made, oh gosh, my favorite one was Eloise's Olaf cake, which was actually about yay high. And I think she used purple food coloring. So when everyone ate it, we all had black mouths, particularly the 1-year-old who didn't eat it as much as smeared it or wore it. But she became so legendary for her cakes. A friend of mine who ran a cafe at Marina Mirage actually said, "Hey, I know you bake really great cakes. Would you mind making some for the cafe?" And they went gangbusters at the cafe. So for a little while there, she was a semi-professional baker. And in fact, last week, a friend of mine reached out and said, "Would your auntie be able to make me a cake?" And I said, "Oh, she would love to, but not right now." But her legend goes beyond even our family, even beyond her friends. People look at those Auntie Cathy cakes and they were just amazed by them. Can you? She made a cake of Helen's dog. Oh. Yep. Which, it looked like Murphy. Which actually reminds me of 2 other ones. She made a pug for Eloise once, and it was perfect. And then on the way, she had to brake suddenly, and the pug went from to. There's some great photos of that one. And my other favorite one was at Ben's birthday. Why did you request a human head? He wanted to test her. So she made a vegan human head, which when you cut into it, had brains in it. They did taste amazing. You just had to pretend you weren't eating. All right, well, we'd like to throw open the floor now. So if you have a great Cathy story, please come on down. Can I pass you the thing? Actually, do you want to come round? Because I think some people are on. Come on round.
Hi, I'm Gemma's mother-in-law, in case you didn't know. And our gorgeous Gemma has been a light in our lives the last 5, or more than that. How many years? And I remember, for their wedding, speaking of cakes, Cathy insisted on making their wedding cake, and they got married in Melbourne. So she made all the layers here and had it in her hand luggage. It weighed about 20 kilos. And there was a vegan layer and all the layers were different flavors, about 6 different layers. And it was all in the hand luggage, and it arrived intact, didn't it? Oh, yes. Orange cake. And I just couldn't believe that she managed to get this massive cake in her hand luggage all the way to Melbourne, intact. So, yes, I know. It was incredible. So, no, that's right. So that's my story about Cathy.
And just that was a great moment, but also Mum got stopped at customs because they thought the caster sugar or whatever it was coconut. She was basically held up at the airport for ages because they were like, "Why would you have 24 kilograms?"
All right. I mean, it's better than maybe the royal icing being considered plastic explosives, I guess. So that's another one. Is there somebody from the dog friends group or the neighbours group? Mary, would you like to come up and say some words?
Keep it short.
Yeah.
And I might talk on behalf of the dog people and the well, anyway. So the dog people, what can you say? I mean, we met virtually every day for ages, and we all our dogs love each other. At one stage, I counted that there were 10 people and 17 dogs, all milling around happy. The dogs all knew each other, and everybody was absolutely happy, and it was wonderful. And Cathy just actually maintained that dog club because we always knew that Cathy would be there every day. And so it was a very close group, and we're still close today because of that. And it's absolutely wonderful, and it will keep on going. Okay. We also had our book club group too. Now I've been here 20 years. Cathy was here, I think it's 11. And for 10 years of that, Cathy and I have been the best of best neighbors. And it's really, really, really hard because we've been just so good friends. And I know all of you have known her longer and you've got stories that go back, but fuck, we've got stories. Which I don't think I can actually share right here now. But I would like Jenny to come up here now. She's here somewhere because we had a very special group. And this special group, we went through COVID together, darling. We did. So Cathy and I, of course, we were isolated, weren't we? You're isolated. So we say, well, let's have Friday night cocktails. We're under the same roof. That means we can actually mix. We don't have to wear masks. We're fine. And then Jenny said, but what about me? And we said, that's all right. We need a younger person who's our caregiver. We need care every Friday afternoon. So picture this, Jenny arrives on her bicycle with her little dog Lily in the back, with her cocktails on the basket. Cathy comes over with her cocktails. I have my cocktails. And the rule was we had to have a different cocktail per person every Friday. And we did that all the way through COVID. Not one cocktail was the same. We achieved greatness. Absolutely. And I'd like to say this, that, that's the sad thing, that we fucking well got through COVID. We got through everything together, and then everything went up pear-shaped. Okay, I don't want to say much more, and other people can say everything else, but this is going to annoy Cathy to shit, because we talked about poetry and stuff. We used to every now and again talk about it, and we go, oh, for God's sake, that's absolutely wet blankets, But I found this one, and this was something that I actually thought is so important to all of us, and particularly to Gemma as well. And it's called On Those Days, and it was written by a lady called Donna Ashworth. I have no clue who she is, but anyway. And she says, on those days when you miss someone the most, as though your memories are sharp enough to slice through skin and bone, remember how they loved you. Remember how they loved you, and do that for yourself. In their name, in their honor, love yourself as they loved you. They would like that. On those days when you miss someone the most, love yourself harder. And that's what Cathy would have wanted. Okay.
I know Cathy, when she left her many, many years of teaching, she was a preschool teacher for forever. And then everything became prep. And that was a whole other adventure. And I know a lot of you are from those days in Coomera Primary School. And she left the big house and she downsized to the little house, and she wondered what could retirement be like. Well, I tell you, I've never wanted to be retired as much as I do, having watched the life Cathy has had and the cocktail clubs and the book clubs. And they didn't mention that from every book that they would read, you would pick a meal that was in the book or a cuisine that was mentioned in the book, and and she's like, oh, I've got to cook this big Indian feast tonight. We just read this book. I didn't read the book, but I've got the food. I hear about this being like going off to my 9-to-5 job. This is ridiculous. But she made it look so great. And, in her retirement, she tried her hand at everything, like cleaning out the garage. We remembered all these hobbies she had. And the girls really fondly remember she went through like a stone carving phase. And there's some stone things in the garden. And yes, Hebel, which I was like, I don't even know what that is. And we were just remembering with Gemma making her new shop and everything and all the works, and she'd ring her up on the phone, and I was hearing this story just before, and are you using the right enamel? Have you double coated? Have you done this? And she'd be giving advice from afar, and I think she tried all the hobbies. I think, would you say Bunnings was her favorite store? Yeah, Bunnings. So if you and she's like, I've just been to Bunnings, and we're like, uh-oh, what's the new hobby? Yes, and you can take your dogs to Bunnings, so that was great too. But the only thing she loved more than her hobbies was her friends, and I know she was so invested in so many of you, and she talked about you like you were family as well, and it's lovely to see so many of you here. I'd like to throw the microphone open to anyone who would like to share a story. Otherwise, is there anybody else who'd like to speak? What's that?
I'd just like to give, I promised Cathy I'd say this.
Okay. Do you want me to bring you the mic? Dogs are people too. Actually, that we did speak of something in hospice, and we talked about that many people in hospice actually experience visitations, hallucinogens of things. Oh, excuse me, earring. And one of the things people say that comes to them in those last few days is your animals. And I'm like, God, Cathy, you're gonna have to throw the door open, because you've had like 50 animals, and she's had cats and rats and dogs and hermit crabs and fish, and every time she's been like, I've just been to the AWL, we're like, oh no, what have you done? And we've got these two lovely little petties from there, and Skylar and her medication, which has exceeded anybody's medication I've ever known. We were just praying before there wasn't going to be a storm, because we would hear about that. She's got this storm jacket which calms her. Yes. Sydney the lab. That's the one. She did. Yeah. He has.
Possum feeder, which ended up being a snake feeder.
Oh.
Had possums and snakes.
That's true. I remember when you had rats at Helensville, pet rats. She said one day a big carpet python, she heard this banging on the window and she went in there and the carpet python was trying to get through the window to the rats who were terrified. But that was another reason that was fun to go there. Circle of life moment. We got to learn. We did get to celebrate Cathy's 70th last year, and that was such a special time. So thank you to everybody who came today. Please, as Mary said, love yourself a bit harder today and the people who are here. And we're just so grateful that she's the reason we all got to be here today. So if you've got a glass, raise a glass. I don't have one myself. So air cheers to Cathy for everything that she was and the person we loved. Thank you, everybody. Feel free to mingle. There's more food. I know some people need to go. Jem, did you want to say anything to finish off? Nope. She's all good. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for coming today.
Feels like I'm standing on a timeless stream of light mists, of pale ambrose. Feels like I'm lost in a deep cloud of heavenly scent. Touching, discovering you. Those days of warm rains come rushing back to me. Miles of windless summer nights, secret moments shared in the heat of the afternoon. Out of the stillness, soft-spoken words. Say it again. I love you, always, forever, near and far, closer together, everywhere. I will be with you, everything. I will be for you. I love you, always, forever, near and far, closer together, everywhere. I will be with you, everything. I will do for you. You've got the most unbelievable blue eyes I've ever seen. You've got me almost melting away as we lay there under a blue sky with pure white stars. Exotic sweetness, a magical time. Say it again. I love you, always, forever, near and far, closer together, everywhere. I will be with you, everything. I will do for you. I love you, always, forever, near and far, closer together, everywhere. I will be with you, everything. I will do for you. Say you'll love me forever, never stop, never, whatever, near and far, and always, and everywhere.